I promised you a video on doing the wheel bearings, on how to pack them correctly, how to, make sure that they're working right and stuff like that. So I did one wheel bearing already on the trailer, but I haven't done the other. I did the other one, I filmed it, it came out kind of blurry, so I decided to go ahead and redo it on this one here. So this is the, if you're looking at the trailer straight on from the front, looking towards the back, this would be the left-hand side of the wheel, or if you're looking at the trailer from the back looking to the front, this would be your right-hand side. So this particular trailer came with brakes on, but we're not going to worry about the brakes. We're just worried about the wheel bearing at this point in time. Okay, so in order to get the wheel bearing off, there's a couple ways of doing this, and I'm just going to take you step by step through this whole process. First thing you want to do is, wheel bearings are messy, so you want to get some gloves on so that your hands don't get dirty. And you know what? I forgot them, so give me just a second, and I'm going to go get my gloves. Okay, so I got my gloves here, and you can get these gloves at any place. Like Harbor Freight's probably the cheapest. They're nitro 5mm gloves. I use them in my woodworking shop too as well, to kind of keep if I'm staining or gluing and stuff like that, just to keep my hands clean. First thing we want to do is you want to look for this like silver piece right here. It may be silver in some, it may be like a patine color, or where it's just gotten old over the years, and maybe brown or something like that. This thing here is called the dust cover, and all it does is just make sure that no dust gets up into the wheel bearing part, which is under this area right here. Best way to get this off is do not use a hammer like this. This is not a good idea. You want to use a mallet and either a little mini crowbar like this, or you want to use a flat blade screwdriver like this. Either one of these things will work, the mini crowbar or the screwdriver. You're just going to get up into the little crack there, and once it pops off a little bit, you're going to turn it, and it should pop right off, which it did. A couple things you want to look for once you get the dust cover off is you want to look to see if there's a bunch of grease up inside there. If there's a bunch of grease up inside of it, that means it was packed really good. This one, it's alright. It's not that bad. The other thing you want to look for is to see how much grease is all over on the wheel bearing itself. Or on the, actually not the wheel bearing, but the wheel bearing's back up inside here, but on the nut that's right here, and you also want to see how much is on the axle part right here. So we're going to just clean off some of this so we can kind of see what we're looking at. Okay? And I've got a paper towel around here someplace. Everyone has some paper towels close by so you can wipe your hands off, stuff like that. So once you get your dust cover off, the two things that you're looking at right now is this right here, which is part of this cotter pin at the top, and this nut right here, which is called I believe it's called a crown nut, because it kind of looks like the crown of, for a king. In order to get this nut off, you have to take the cotter pin out. All the cotter pin is doing is hold that nut in place. And all the nut is doing is holding the wheel bearing that's inside here in place. That's the only purpose of these right here. And the dust cover just keeps everything nice and clean. In order to get this cotter pin off, you're going to need to have a pair of pliers. Needle nose or something, along the same line. I've got these right here. These are my Gerber pliers. I use these for everything. And all you're going to do is you're going to grab the ends of the cotter pin that are bent up, and you're going to bend them back down. Now, if you break the cotter pin, it's not a big deal. I just broke this one off, which tells me that whoever owned this camper before me must have changed it quite often, or packed the bearings regularly. Cotter pins wear out over time. It just happens. So let me get looks like they bent up the little one too. Okay, we'll get that down. Now, we can just try to pull the cotter pin out from the top. I'm just going to get my needle nose pliers up inside there. Pull them out. Just like that. Get this cotter pin. Cotter pin out of here. Okay. Looks like my cotter pin is still salvageable, so I'm not going to worry about getting a new one. However, if you do break the cotter pin, it's no big deal. Just go up to the hardware store, either an auto parts store or a handyman hardware or someplace. Get a new cotter pin, put it back in there. Take your old one with you though. Remember to take the old one with you so that you can match up the length and stuff like that. Okay, so here's our cotter pin. If you look at it, he's got two different lengths. One side is usually longer than the other one. This side I broke off. That was actually longer than this side here. We're going to try to see if we can just work it with just that piece right there. Okay. Next thing we want to do is we want to take off this nut. It should come off freely. If you've got it cranked down on this, somebody has packed this wheel bearing wrong. This should come off freely, and when we go to put it back on, it should go back on freely too. Oh, and just as a tip, don't just lay your cotter pin down on the ground. Stick it back into the that dust collector cap so that you don't lose all your parts. Okay? Same thing. We're going to take off this nut, make sure it comes off nice and freely. You should be able to just take it off by hand. Once you get it off by hand, just inspect it to make sure it looks nice and clean and everything. Nothing, no chunks of metal, nothing broken on it. This one looks to be in really good shape. And this is why they call it the crown nut, because see, it kind of looks like a crown. It's royalty. Okay, we'll put that down on our thing. Now, in order to get the wheel, this bearing out, is kind of difficult. I can't just reach up in there and pull it out. So here's another nice little tip. If you've got a trailer with hub on it that's similar to mine, where you've got the bolts, you just put the bolts back in it, all you do is you just grab your hub, pull it towards you, and pull it back. The wheel bearing will just pop right out. Once the wheel bearing comes out, then you want to inspect it to see if any of these bearings are either got a flat side to them, or if they are not spinning correctly. All you do is just put your finger in the middle, see if they spin right. If any of them are loose, any of them are questionable, I would seriously, they're not that expensive. Just go up and buy new wheel bearings. You're better off just getting new wheel bearings and putting them in than putting in ones that you kind of are like, I don't know, it could be good or bad. It's better to do that than to deal with it on the road if you're pulling your camper down and all of a sudden your wheels lock up because you didn't put new wheel bearings in because you were being cheap or something like that. So you can get these wheel bearings from hardware store or like a auto parts store, or from any, if it's like a boat trailer or a camping trailer, you could probably get it from a camper store as well. I don't think you can get them from a hardware store. I could be wrong, but somebody let me know. Okay, so the way this wheel bearing works is that the shaft, if this was the axle, the wheel bearing goes onto the axle like this, and if you look at the wheel bearing, you notice that it kind of slants down like that. That goes in towards the middle of the axle, so this would go back onto the wheel like this. It would go back on. If the wheel was going to connect on here, it would go like that. So, what we're going to do is we're going to lube these boogers up, and then we're going to clean this out a little bit, the existing grease that's in here, and then we're going to lube these up and put this all right back together. Really, this is a short thing to do. In order to grease up your wheel bearings, you need to get wheel bearing grease. So I've had this can forever. Actually, it's my father-in-law's can, and he's had it forever, and this stuff is just, you don't really use it all that often. Probably once a year, maybe once every couple years you want to pack your wheel bearings. You don't want to have to do it, you don't have to do it every month. Unless you're traveling like an ungodly amount of miles, then maybe. But most of the time, you're just gonna use this every so often. And if you get a new trailer, some of them come with a maintenance plan and stuff like that. You don't even have to use this at all. If you're one of those do-it-yourselfers where you take care of your own wheels on your car and stuff like that, then buy a can of this. It does stink, and I would not lick this, but my daughter's behind me going, Dad, seriously? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pack these wheel bearings really good with grease. Just going to work them into the bearings themselves, all over it. Just want to get it all over the place so that it's nice and covered with wheel bearing grease. Just like that. It's like peanut butter. Peanut butter and wheel bearing. Okay, so once our wheel bearings are packed like this, and there's another wheel bearing packer thing that you can buy. I don't have one. And basically what you do is you would stick it into the can and then pop this top on it, and it just squeezes wheel bearing grease all up through the whole thing. I don't have that. I don't really think it's necessary, as long as you pack these really good and that you're putting in wheel bearings that are still in good shape. These are in really good shape. so I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so the wheel bearings go back into where the narrow side points into the axle or into the middle of the trailer. We're going to slide this booger right up in here. You might have to lift up your hub a little bit to get it back up in there. I'm just going to pack some more grease up inside here. It's okay to have too much grease. It's not okay to have too little. Grease makes the wheel bearing happy, and a happy wheel bearing is a happy axle. Okay, now that we've got our wheel bearing all packed in full of grease, I'm going to take our crown nut and I'm just going to put a little bit on it and inside the threads so we keep the threads nice and clean. Oh yeah. Oh, this is looking nasty. And then we're going to screw this on. And again, remember, we want to go hand tight. Now, if you have a problem getting this nut going, sometimes it happens. Don't force it. It should go on nice and easy. If you have a problem getting it going, go backwards on the axle a couple of turns until you feel it click. Once you feel it click, then go to the right way, and it should go on nice and easy. See how that happened? That was beautiful, wasn't it? Sophie, wasn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just going to turn this. And remember, we got to get it back turned in enough to at least get to the hole for our cotter pin. Okay? Alright, so here's our cotter pin. We're going to put that booger, when you go to put the cotter pin in, put the long side facing towards you. It's going to go in just like this. Okay? So, our hole's right here. I'm going to put this cotter pin in right here like this. And actually, it's kind of a little bent because I bent it. Just got grease all over my Gerbers. Man. It's alright, no big deal. I know, I should put on clean gloves. It's not going to hurt the Gerbers, but it just makes it messy to work with. Again. Okay. We're going to put our cotter pin in. There it goes. That's it. Okay. Now, once we get our cotter pin in, I'm actually going to push this down just a little bit more so that, there it goes, the seat's good and solid. I'm going to take the ends of the cotter pin, I'm going to bend her up, because one thing I don't want to happen is for my cotter pin to come out. If the cotter pin comes out, then that means this nut right here is going to come loose. This nut comes loose, the wheel bearings slide out, and then we're in a heap of trouble, because then that could actually ruin the axle to where the hub will sit on the axle and rub. Now, once we get that all done, this thing should turn like a dream. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, it was turning good beforehand, but I mean, look at that. That's Sophie, is this beautiful or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sophie's like, Dad, you are a genius. All right. What I'm going to do now is any of this old grease that's up inside there, which kind of looks like mayonnaise. Like mayonnaise. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to clean that out, because there is no reason to keep old mayonnaise around, right, Soph? Unless maybe you like old mayonnaise. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a big glob of grease here. I'm going to fill it all in. Yeah. Sophie said, Dad, that looks delicious. Call this wheel bearing goodness. Okay. Okay, see that? See how filled that is? The only reason I'm doing this is just to make sure that, one, I've got enough grease in there for if the wheel bearings decide to splash some off. And the other is also, again, this protects the dirt from getting up into the wheel bearings themselves. So now I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take my hands and clean them off a little bit here. Get all this nice, delicious grease off of me. Close up my grease. I don't need that anymore. I'm going to take my trusty mallet. Actually, let me take my nasty gloves off, because off of one hand at least. Take my trusty mallet here. I'm going to lightly tap it back in place, and it should sit nice tight. You don't want to just beat the crap out. Oops, I'm sorry. Beat the crap out of it, because it doesn't need to be. It should pop right back into place just fine. So we are tapped back into place. Our wheel bearings are changed, and we are ready to roll. So the next video should be of my floor getting built and then putting it on, and then after that we're going to start setting up the garage to start building walls. That's going to be the biggest thing. So I will go over how I'm planning on doing that, because the walls will be made laying down and I will put them on and attach them, and then I will go over some of the issues that I've had in the past with building the floor and stuff like that, or not in the past, but issues that we've had building the floor, and kind of go over that and why I had to do some of the stuff I had to do. Alright, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you want to continue to get the videos, most recent videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button up in the corner, and if you like this video, hit the like button. My name is Tom Wright, and this is my custom build, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.